What's up, everybody? Scott here. This week, Zack and I are very excited to talk about one of our favorite video game series that turned 35 years old this week, The Legend of Zelda. In news, we chat about Nintendo's latest Direct, as well as some interesting announcements from Blizzard. New games discussed include Anodyne 2 and Dry Drowning. Plus, we hear Zack and I gush a bit more about Super Mario 3D World. Also, Rel stops by to talk about a game he's been playing called 30XX. This is The Gaming Outsider. Greetings, programs, and welcome to episode 334 of The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community. It's Monday, February 22nd. I'm your host, Scott Clark, and joining me is my good friend, the guy who will not leave me like the other half of Daft Punk, Mr. Zack Parkerson.
No, man. It's you and me forever.
Yeah, dude. Aw.
Yeah, I'm not going nowhere.
It is a Scott and Zack show this week because Chris is working. He's out, saving lives or something like that. So he was a little too busy to come talk to us about video games.
Selfish.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm okay with that this week because I get to sit here and chat with my good friend about my favorite video game series of all time in celebration of the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. I seriously have been looking forward to this all week, Zack. I don't know about you.
I mean, I believe it. You have quite a collection of Zelda merch.
I do.
I'm sure that'll get discussed later.
It will. And by the way, I pre-ordered the the Joy-Cons for Skyward Sword.
I didn't know pre-orders were live yet.
They are, and they've been hard to come by. They're going on eBay for like over $300 already.
No surprise there.
I was a little worried I wasn't going to be able to get my hands on a set, but I did, and it will go in my collection. So
the Nintendo fan base, bunch of suckers.
Yeah, almost like Star Wars fan base.
Yeah, well, those people are obnoxious. At least the Nintendo fans are wholesome suckers.
There you go, wholesome suckers. That's a great way to put it. Anyway, how's your week been?
It's good, man. I'm still reeling for that Mortal Kombat trailer.
That trailer was pretty good. I only watched it the once, but I need to go back and see it again because I'm not even a big Mortal Kombat guy, and it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I always just watch the cutscenes online because I suck at the games.
Yeah.
But boy, I'm stoked. It looks like it was directed by somebody who actually cares.
Right.
Which is very rare for video game adaptations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just wish it were about a series that I cared a little bit more about in terms of lore, but I'm happy for the fans of Mortal Kombat.
I've many years been obsessed with that stupid lore. It's really dumb, man, but I eat it up. I don't know what that says about me.
Sub-Zero freeze somebody's blood in midair?
He cuts a dude's arm and then freezes the blood in the air, then stabs him with it, and then he throws him through a spiky ice wall he had constructed while he was doing the blood freezing. It's cool. Awesome. It's freaking awesome.
"Get over here" line was in the trailer, which you knew it had to be, right?
It would have been disappointing if it wasn't there.
Yeah, exactly. But I thought they actually pulled it off pretty well.
Well, the nice thing is that it's not like pointing out like, hey, remember, look, we're a video game movie. Wink, wink. Like, it feels more natural than that.
You mean like the original movie?
That's a good example, yes.
Yeah.
Or most adaptations after that. I think the House of the Dead movie had a health bar at one point or something like that.
Really? I never
something
saw
really dumb. It's really, really bad, man.
Yeah, there's a lot. Remember Doom? Remember Doom when they had the first-person mode?
That's another great example of like, hey, check it out. We like a video game.
Yeah. Just tell the story. Just have fun with the story.
That's what I'm saying. That's what this looks like. And they're doing R-rated, so they're doing it right.
Yeah. Oh, hey, by the way, happy 30th birthday, man.
Yeah. Me and Zelda, getting old.
I mean, Zelda's got 5 years on you, but...
yeah. Well, Sonic and I are the same age, which is always cool.
I did not know that. Sonic turns 30 this year?
Yeah. 30th anniversary.
So we're going to have like an anniversary collection come out this year, right? I'll actually finally play those games.
I would hope so. I would have thought that a 35th Zelda anniversary collection would have been announced, but I was wrong on that.
Yeah, I was a little bummed, but hey, here's hoping something in the future. I may just have to dust off a 3DS and go through and play Ocarina of Time again, because that game, I just need to revisit.
I have a weird desire to play Twilight Princess.
Yeah?
I think that's the one I've played the least.
Really? See, that one we'll get to Zelda. Let's get to Zelda.
Okay, yeah, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Let's talk about what you've been playing this week, or at least getting caught up on.
Well, speaking of being a Nintendo sucker, I've been doing a whole lot of Mario 3D World.
Yes. Okay. I have been as well, but this was the first time you played it, right?
Yeah, I never had a Wii U. So this is my intro to Super Mario 3D World.
Okay. So as a person that never touched it, how is it?
It's awesome. It is. I know it's the sequel to 3D Land, right? Which is a 3DS game.
Right.
And it feels like a portable game in the level length and such, which I'm loving a lot.
I do too.
Because you can get in and out and find all the you can find all the collectibles in a level and get out in usually about 3 minutes or less.
Right. That's what I love about it, because there's something like 380 green stars to collect. But if I have 5 minutes, I can accomplish something.
Right.
You know,
yeah, you can just knock out a level.
I love that.
Which is funny that it was on the Wii U because it wasn't as portable as the Switch. But it really is, you know, I'm waiting for the bus. I can knock out a level.
You know, I use my Wii U as a portable device, sort of. Like, I would set up the Wii U in my living room, like right next to my couch's like end table or whatever, and just play it in handheld mode. Basically, as a Switch before a Switch was a thing.
Right, but the Wii U couldn't leave the house, right?
Right. I mean, you could carry the whole thing with you. It wasn't that. You just needed power. You didn't need an HDMI, right?
Yeah.
So you just needed that big.
I guess you could.
Yeah, you could. I saw people do it on a plane.
I was gonna say you could play it on a plane.
Mm-hmm. It fits right in that little pocket thing right there where the magazines are, so it's totally possible.
But yeah, man, I think it is, like most Mario games, it is absolutely exceptional. And I'm utterly enraptured while I'm playing it. I suspect, like most Mario games, when I'm done with it, I'll probably never think of it again.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like the most amazing disposable video games in the world. They're just so incredible while you're playing them. And they use, like you were texting me early on while I was playing it. They're like, oh man, they're so clever with the clear pipes. And at that point I was like, no, they're not. What are you talking about? And then they do like a whole world where they just like use the clear pipes in so many clever ways. I'm like, man, that's Nintendo for you.
Yeah.
You know, and then that's the only world that does that, because Nintendo is smart enough to retire an idea once they've used it up.
Yeah, I think we've talked about that in the past, where games that have an idea like that and they just pull it back, leaving you wanting more instead of beating you over the head with it. I think Titanfall.
I was going to say, it's just Nintendo games and Titanfall 2.
Yeah.
And Half-Life 2.
Right.
These are like the only games that have had the restraint to do that.
I'm glad you're digging it though, man. How far did you get?
I've rolled credits.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So I beat Bowser in less than a week. I put in some time.
Apparently.
Well, it's also a remarkable game to play while you're listening to podcasts.
Yeah, because you don't really. Who cares about the sound?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's been kind of a relaxing situation, but it's just so that the pace of finding all the stars and everything is just so addictive that I am having a hard time putting it. Like, I haven't really read anything this week or watched TV or watched any movies or anything. It's just been me and Mario all week.
Now,
See, even, like it's infecting me to like where I'm watching YouTube, and I'm like, well, I could play a couple levels while I'm watching this video, right?
Well, it's so perfect in that, like, just one more level, because one more level really can be like 3 minutes.
Perfect and terrible.
Yeah,
in that I'm getting nothing done. But man, it's a hell of a lot of fun. Haven't played the Bowser's Fury stuff yet, but I did not know there's a whole other half of the game after the credits, apparently.
Oh, really?
3D World.
It's been a minute since I played it on Wii.
There are 4 more whole worlds after the credits.
4 more worlds.
Right. Yeah, I had to Google it. And
so there's 8 worlds, right, before credits?
Yeah, which is the standard Mario setup.
Right.
But it's kind of refreshing because I kind of thought, like, as Mario games go, I thought it was really easy compared to a lot of them. And then these 4 worlds seem to be, you know, for the long time Mario fans of like, okay, here you go. Kind of like Odyssey did that too after the credits.
If I remember correctly, they start utilizing the cherries a lot more in interesting, difficult ways.
Really? Okay.
Like, it's been, like I said, it's been a while, and I'm only on World 5 right now, going through the main game. But I did 100% Bowser's Fury, which I was shocked at how much I liked that.
I watched a video review, man. I cannot wait to get to Bowser's Fury. I feel bad doing it and then going back to 3D World. but it looks, the Bowser's Fury almost looks like I hope they make the whole next Mario game like that.
It's very like Mario's Majora's Mask. A little bit.
Okay.
I mean, just in terms of like this looming presence always being there, which it can be annoying. It can be annoying where like you're trying to get a shine sprite or whatever, or I think they call them cat shrines, and you're really close to it, and all of a sudden Bowser just shows up and jacks everything up. You can still do it. It just makes it more difficult, but it makes it interesting. So
would you say, like, should I just jump into Bowser's Fury, or may as well just polish off 3D World then move on?
Boy, I mean, if I remember correctly, those last 4 worlds are gonna get hairy.
Yeah.
So do that, and then when you get frustrated and need a break, just go play some Bowser's Fury, bounce back and forth, because it's not super difficult. It's delightful.
Okay.
And all the mechanics are the same. All the power-ups are exactly the same, so you'll feel right at home. But instead of it being bite-sized levels, it's like it's one giant overworld.
Yeah, that's what makes me like hope the next Mario game is like that.
It would be cool. And then it's just really awesome too, like when you actually do those like Godzilla fights with Bowser, like I was talking about, you're actually running around on the same world. So like you're this giant Mario running around a tiny level that you had just traversed. It's just kind of cool.
That is kind of cool.
Like what a concept.
There's one giant mushroom in 3D World.
Yes, there's only one in the whole game. You never see it again?
I have not seen it again.
You know what? Come to think of it, I think I saw it one other time.
Okay.
Because I think I needed it to get a green star, but maybe I'm misremembering it. But
even twice though is like not a lot.
That's true. But that's what you said you liked.
No, it's smart. But anyway, yeah, anybody should play this game.
Yeah, it's really good.
I mean, it makes me want to go back and 100% Odyssey again. Honestly.
Interesting, man.
And also pick up. I gotta pick up 3D All Stars before I can't.
That's true. But man, Odyssey has something like 800 or 900 of those moon things to get.
But it also does the brilliant thing this game does, where it doesn't boot you from the level when you get a star.
I know that we were talking about that a little bit on text, because that's what Mario 64 did, and Sunshine and all those.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a technology limitation more than anything.
It is, but there's something of that, like the pace of, because it still feels as rewarding as getting a star, but then you just get to keep going.
Right. But it also feels like a 2D Mario in that you just run through the level. You know what I mean? Instead of it being like, even though it's in 3D, it feels like a 3D, 2D Mario game, which is awesome. So yes, everybody needs to play Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. And I know people are still balking at the price, but I still am perfectly happy with the price I paid for it.
Even if it's just 3D World, I guess because it's a re-release or whatever, but it's a hell of a lot of game and a very well made game. Even for a guy who usually plays just for story, loving the hell out of Mario.
Yeah, I really like it a lot. And if you are interested in it but don't want to shell out the $60 for it, I have some potentially good news for you. We are doing our giveaway for the month of February as a copy of Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. So be sure to check out the show notes of this episode if you'd like to win a copy. All you have to do is be a listener of this show and fill out a form on Google Forms, and you'll be entered into a drawing to potentially win that copy, which we'll mail out to you as soon as the drawing is completed. So good luck to everybody. But Zach, let's go ahead and jump into the week's news. Quite a bit happened this week. First off, Nintendo's February 2021 Direct live stream took place. Lots of news to cover there. Blizzard had some interesting announcements, including the Diablo 2 trailer and some other things. Silent Hill could be getting not one, but 2 reboots in the near future. So keep an eye out for that. Zach, you got the floor, man. Where would you like to start?
I don't think there's any reasonable thing to do other than start with Nintendo.
Yeah?
Their first Direct in over 500 days.
Has it been that long since they've had a Direct?
Yeah, that's what the Twitter informed me.
No, that can't be right.
They've done mini Directs for specific games, but it's been over 500 days since a big Direct.
Wow, I did not know that. That's interesting. Okay.
That's why people had such lofty expectations.
I guess. And that's the thing is, like, people were all over Twitter disappointed. I feel like there was a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah, I'll say it was a little anime game heavy, but otherwise, I just don't know what. There was no showstopper, I guess.
Right.
So I get what people are saying there, but also
no Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, keep dreaming. But there's a lot of exciting stuff here, though. I watched it, and I'm not traditionally the Nintendo guy, and I thought I ended the event going, man, I gotta keep my Switch handy.
There's gonna be something to play on your Switch all the time. It feels like.
Yeah, the sales section of that store is it's bad for me.
I tend to stay away. I tend to look for a deal if I come across a deal on Twitter or something. Then I go into the store and look for that specifically and just avoid it because I'm fearful for my wallet.
I did finally buy Golf Story, in case you're interested in that.
Hallelujah, man! That game was on sale for like $3 or something.
I bought it for $7, and I also bought Mario and Rabbids for $10. So I'm gonna be good for a while, I think.
Yeah, probably.
But
let me know what you think of Golf Story.
It looked so incredible when it came out. It just slipped through my fingers.
Do you like golf games traditionally?
I loved Mario Golf on the Game Boy.
Well, funny you say that because they announced at this Direct a new Mario Golf game called Super Rush.
Very excited. I was moderately excited, and then they said story mode, and I got very excited.
Oh, yeah. I actually think that the Rush mode seems like a really fun way to do multiplayer.
I agree. It seems like a very family game mode.
I mean, it's just one of those things where when you play a golf game, you're just sitting there waiting for everybody else to play, but you can just all play at the same time and it's just like a race. I think that's kind of brilliant.
Right. And it helps, like, you don't have to necessarily be good at golf, it sounds like, right? It's just the first to get the ball in the hole.
Right. It's a race. What else stood out to you? Oh,
man. You want to ask me? Boy, there's a lot of good stuff. Skyward Sword coming to Switch is something I said last week on the show would not happen, so I guess I'll eat some more crow. Although, specifically, I said if they did make it on Switch, it would never be in handheld mode. And joke's on me.
It is going to be in handheld mode, because that was the thing. I was watching it live, and I'm like, what are you guys going to do? Because this was waggle controls.
Right, well, I watched it, and I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, the Joy-Con, that makes sense for that. But you guys, I guess it'll just be a docked-only game. And they said, Zack, I don't think so.
Yeah, they're basically doing the Fight Night Round 3 thing, where you can actually swing the Joy-Con on the sword.
It made me think of Star Wars Obi-Wan on the original Xbox.
Ah, I've not played that.
If you ever played that. Your lightsaber control was on the right analog stick.
Oh, really?
It was pretty slick.
I am looking forward to, because as we're going to get to later in our Zelda discussion, that is one glaring omission from my list. Because I tried.
Agreed.
I tried. They better let me scroll through the dialogue quicker in this version.
Yeah, it would be nice if they tightened up or allowed you to skip sections of the intro.
Yeah.
But either way, I just enjoy the Switch experience way more than the Wii experience, so I think I'll actually play this game finally.
Well, yeah, play it on the go.
And there have been enough YouTube video essays on how brilliant Skyward Sword's dungeons are. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think I ever got to a dungeon. I hated the intro so much of that game.
I didn't. I couldn't get past that like opening sky level. Or no, I actually landed somewhere and I had to fight one of those plants like from Ocarina.
Yeah.
Yeah, those tall blue-headed plants. And I was like, I got to do this entire game when I fight? I just wasn't. I quit.
Well, and then the reward of killing that plant was another 15 minutes of dialogue telling you how to move a block.
Yeah, exactly. I'm okay with the dialogue. Just let me like press A to read the whole thing, because I can read pretty quickly.
Right.
I remember playing that game. It typed out every single letter by letter by letter and would not let you scroll through it. It just drove me mad.
And I don't mind. Give me hours of dialogue. I don't care. Just make it more interesting than, hey, Link, lock on to look up here. And then you lock on. They're like, that was a great job locking on, man. You should do it again. And then you're like, do it again. You're like, man, you're really on a roll with the locking on, aren't you? You're like, okay, I get it. Thank you.
What did you think about this Star Wars Hunters? Because I got really excited when I saw a new Star Wars title. I want to see if you had the same reaction I did, though.
Mixed emotions. Is that what you had? I think it's cool again because everything that has Star Wars in the Disney era has to be canon. So it makes me excited that after episode 6, there's this lightsaber wielding woman in an arena. I'm like, ooh, let me hear more about this. But other than that, the Zynga logo makes me concerned.
Yep. And being a multiplayer.
But Galaxy of Heroes, as fun as it is on mobile, it would be nice to have another Star Wars mobile game. So this is going to be on Switch, iOS, and Android.
I don't know. I just hear multiplayer and I'm just kind of checked out.
I feel like a Star Wars multiplayer is more likely to get me to play it than anything. And the fact that it's not a shooter makes me interested.
True.
But you're right. There just wasn't enough there. And the name really made me think we're going to get a bounty hunter game.
Right. When you hear that, you think, all right.
I think it's a terrible
The Mandalorian
name.
thing is paying off for us.
I would say it's a mean-spirited name, I would say. They knew what they were doing.
I got a question, though, for you.
Okay.
When we did our predictions episode, one of the predictions that I did not make this year, that I make every year, is that Ninja Gaiden was going to come back. And I didn't make it this year. If I had made that prediction, would I have gotten a quarter of a point or a half a point with the announcement of Ninja Gaiden Master Collection being announced for the Switch?
It's funny you say that, because I think I would give you if it had the original old school 2D games in the collection as well, I'd be like, that's a full point for sure.
Oh, really? Because I never said anything about the original games.
Yeah, well, if Ninja Gaiden's coming back, right? Well, your prediction is always that Ninja Gaiden, like there would be another Ninja Gaiden game.
Right.
I'd probably give you a half point in the collection, but for some reason, if they were like, here's every Ninja Gaiden game, I'd be like, that's a full point, because that almost feels like a celebration of the franchise.
Man, I did not like the third one. I did not like Ninja Gaiden 3.
Not a lot of people did.
But I would love to go back and play 1 and 2 again, just to see if they're as difficult as I remember. Because
I would love to replay the first Ninja Gaiden in a post-Dark Souls world.
That's what I mean. Like, because that almost feels like a Souls-like game to me. To some degree.
Much more twitchy. But it is a game I only ever beat because my friend dared me to. So I would like to try to play it where I am getting along with the game, maybe.
Interesting.
Now that I appreciate challenge in video games more than I did when I was younger.
The interesting thing about Ninja Gaiden to me is that game starts out hard and gets easier as you go.
That's how I feel Dark Souls games are.
Is it? Okay.
Once you get over the hump of figuring out how to kill those first boss, you're like, oh. And I think Ninja Gaiden works the same way until that freaking horse boss, that guy on the horseback.
Wasn't that the second one?
I think so.
The one that drove me crazy was Alma. She was like a spider-like woman like a woman that turned into like a spider creature.
Yeah, sounds hot.
That boss haunts me to my core. I hated it so much when I was younger. Anyway, that's I got a lot of. There's lots here. Is there anything else?
It's pretty big direct. Okay, look, man. For me, honest to God, the most exciting announcement was DC Superhero Girls Teen Power.
I thought of you as soon as that came up, especially because they said our partner Green Lantern.
Yeah, I couldn't. The store description for this game, Scott, mentions Star Sapphire, who is a Green Lantern's girlfriend. Sometimes she's also a villain, but I was like blown away because one of my favorite comic book characters, but gets no love, or the only merchandise is like one action figure and a bust they made once, even though she's been around since 1959. You know, there's not a lot of appreciation for character. It made me very excited, is what I'm saying. But the whole premise of this game of going to class and then you have to actually like go out of your way to switch into your superhero attire by getting away from the public eye. It almost feels like a Persona game, or like Rockstar's Bully.
Assassin's Creed.
It makes me think of Bully.
See, I never played Bully.
Because you have to go to class and stuff. It just sounds adorable. I've only ever seen a couple episodes of the TV show DC Superhero Girls, but they were a delight.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I'm hoping.
I'm happy for you, man. Didn't do a whole lot for me, but
made it really trip my trigger. But the weirdest part about this game is that it's published by Nintendo.
Why is that weird? Just because it's DC?
I mean, I just feel like Nintendo publishing I mean, I know they did Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, but this just feels a little outside of the norm for Nintendo to me.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. Fair enough.
And it also says to me that Nintendo believes in the product.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Get their seal of approval, as it were.
Yeah. The Nintendo name does carry that weight.
I agree. I mean,
over
the seal of quality was a thing on Nintendo games back in the day, remember?
I do remember this.
Yeah.
But I unbelievably over the moon about this teenage girl game.
There's one thing that just kind of bugged me. Did you see the trailer for Miitopia? Which is like a port of a 3DS game that they're charging $50 for?
That's absurd. Which
I know I'm a hypocrite because I was perfectly fine spending $60 on a port of a Wii U game. But I don't know. I'm also not in the camp of people that enjoy Animal Crossing games and people go nuts for that game. So I kind of feel like that game might draw that crowd. I don't know for certain because I just really don't understand what Miitopia is.
There's quite a jump in name brand recognition between Miitopia and Mario.
Right.
You know, one of those does feel worth paying for. I don't know anything about Miitopia. It looked kind of cute, but there's no way I'm going to play that game.
That looked like a pack-in title to me. Like a game that you would expect to come in with a Switch.
If it was like part of your Nintendo Online subscription, you know, that'd be kind of a great game to check out for that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not.
It's not.
Nope. It sure is not.
Fall Guys is coming to Switch.
Right.
That seems like a no-brainer to me.
Yeah, the good platform for that. Project Triangle Strategy or whatever. Looked awesome.
Yeah, the guys that made Octopath Traveler, right?
Right, but a tactics game. And I just like the very like purple prose they were using in the trailer, like, you know, very verbose language. Mm-hmm. It had a good flavor to it, and I like the weird system where your characters are voting on the outcomes of things using a scale of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
It had a very awesome atmosphere, and this is coming from a guy who found no interest in Octopath Traveler. I thought this game looked awesome.
Did you play Octopath at all, or just had no interest?
No, I never did. Once I found out that I thought it was 8 interconnected stories, but when I found out it was that they had the structure of the game was not what I had originally assumed it was going to be.
I think you should still check it out at some point because the stories themselves are interesting. Even though they're not connected, they're still good stories. It feels, like how when you play Final Fantasy VI and the characters, you just feel like you know them.
Yeah.
That's how I felt with Octopath Traveler.
I downloaded the demo for this game.
Oh, did you play it?
I have not played it yet, no.
Okay.
I've been too busy with Mario.
I hear you. The other thing that stood out to me, I mean, again, there's a lot we're brushing over here, but the thing that stood out to me was this Capcom Arcade Stadium, which I thought was pretty cool. You can basically get a bunch of classic Capcom games that you can buy piecemeal, but the cool thing is you get the one that I would have wanted more than any for free.
1943, the no-brainer of the collection.
Yeah, 1943 was always superior to 1942 as a kid, and that's the one I wanted. So I already downloaded it. I just haven't played it yet. But there's a whole bunch of other, like even the original Ghosts and Goblins is supposed to be on there, which good luck beating that game. But I don't know. I like that kind of thing is available, and it's available right now.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. Yeah, but running down the list, those Famicom detective games look kind of cool. That are coming forward.
Heard of those.
I like that they're visual novels that animate. That's different.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Tales from the Borderlands. That was a weird announcement. I don't know who's craving that. Stubbs the Zombie is a weird Xbox game.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that part of their marketing is we haven't touched this game up at all.
That was their marketing.
It was in their trailer. It was like, yeah, this game sure does look like it used to, huh? But that's being published by Aspyr, who is the company who keeps putting out all the old PS2 Star Wars games on modern consoles.
Right.
So they're becoming something of a reclaiming video game history company.
Hey,
Good for them.
I think there's a space for those in the industry.
Absolutely.
I am stoked for Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection as well, although it's not going to be exclusive to Switch. I loved Super Ghouls and Ghosts was the one on Super Nintendo. Super Ghouls and Ghosts, which was a little bit more manageable than Ghosts and Goblins. But I have to imagine in a modern era, they're not going to make this one as stupid hard as the original Ghosts and Goblins, because that game...
Is this franchise connected to Maximo at all?
I could not tell you.
Oh.
I never played Maximo.
Oh, I just remember he also wore boxers with hearts on them when he got damaged.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I would have to look into that.
I assumed you would know, man. You're supposed to be the Ghosts and Goblins guy.
Ghouls and Ghosts. That's probably why.
Whatever. Same thing, no?
Speaking of arcade collections or classic collections, Blizzard had something like that in their announcement this week as well.
I like how you moved right. Isn't the biggest announcement Splatoon 3?
See, I don't care about Splatoon, so yeah, we can talk about that.
I mean, I guess it's just funny to me that was their big mic drop at the end, and then neither one of us care.
Sorry to Splatoon fans.
I love Splatoon 2, but I don't know if I was craving a Splatoon 3. The atmosphere of the franchise is better than the game itself, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. I played the first one. I played the quote unquote campaign, if you call it that. I feel like it was a campaign.
The second one had like a real deal campaign, platformer, 3D platforming campaign.
Okay, maybe I need to go back and check that out. But
I would love to if every Nintendo game was a freaking $60. So
yeah, it's hard to keep up, isn't
it? They don't make going back to their catalog easy.
I agree. All right, so Blizzard's arcade collection is going to include 3 classic games: The Lost Vikings, Rock and Roll Racing, and Blackthorn. Only one of those games I've played.
I assume it's Lost Vikings.
Lost Vikings was a great game. What a clever game that was for its time.
It was cool, but were people clamoring for it?
I think we were talking about Lost Vikings several months ago, but it was more like in memory, not like, man, I can't wait to play that game again. The one that's interesting is Rock and Roll Racing, which I'm sure you're not as familiar with this side of it because you're not a big music guy, but that game had licensed music in it.
Oh.
But it was chiptune versions of licensed music. So apparently streamers aren't able to stream that game because it has licensed music in it.
Even the chiptune versions?
Yep.
That's absurd. And then what is Blackthorn?
I couldn't even tell you. I'm not familiar with that game at all.
Obviously, the glaring omission is Justice League Task Force, developed by Blizzard.
Never played it.
No.
Never played it.
It's good, but it's just I like that neither one of us know what the hell a Blackthorn is.
Yeah. I mean, there's a big muscled dude holding a firearm of some kind, so I assume it's a shooter, but I'd have to look at it. All right. Somebody's really mad at us that we don't know what this Blizzard title is. But the big news to come... Go ahead.
There are diehard Blizzard fans that care, but I just can't imagine who this collection is really for.
Hey, for $20 though, you get all 3 games. Sure. I mean, to me, $20 for Lost Vikings is almost doable.
If you say so.
I really have good memories of that game. It was a fun game.
All right, whatever. That's not what anybody cares about from this conference, though.
No. The big thing was the reveal of Diablo 2 Resurrected, which is we've been hearing about it, or it's been rumored for quite a while, the remaster of Diablo 2, which I've never played because I started it with Diablo 3. And everybody says Diablo 2 is the bee's knees.
It was the bee's knees, Scott.
It was, being the key word. You don't think it'll hold up?
Oh, I'm sure it'll hold up. It probably will play better than Diablo 3, honestly. I mean, it's nice that Diablo 2 is available on console. For me, particularly, I have a lot of nostalgia because it was really my first online game where I really got in with the community and found some people. You know, we meet up weekly and all that. Mm-hmm. I put a lot of time into Diablo 2. That whole genre has not aged well for me. Like, I put, 4 hours into Diablo 3 and found myself unbelievably bored. And yet, I will surely buy this off of nostalgia alone.
Yeah.
The Necromancer class is where it's at, my man.
That's a new class for Diablo 2, right?
Well, I mean, it was in the original Diablo 2.
Oh, was it? Okay, I thought there was a new class that they were making for this version.
Oh, maybe they are. Maybe I missed that. But either way, the Necromancer was the bee's knees, you could say.
I did say. Let's just also mention very quickly this one is sort of a could be. I don't want to say it's a rumor, but it feels a lot more than a rumor. I don't know if you've read up on some of the Twitter or some of the tweets about this story, but Silent Hill is potentially getting 2 reboots. Did you read any of the tweets? Because I know you hate talking about rumors, but what some of the people have said?
This does feel like a situation of where there is smoke, there is fire.
Right.
Right. There has been enough rumors about this, and I feel the Akira Yamaoka, is that his name? The composer of Silent Hill, has, I think, not very subtly suggested he is doing music for a new Silent Hill game.
Yeah, he more or less said, "Yeah, we're working on a new horror franchise, or a sequel to a horror franchise, or reboot of a horror franchise, popular horror from a large company, but I can't tell you who it is."
Wait, and then he made some comment of and my fans will be incredibly pleased when they see what I'm working on.
Right.
And it's boy, that's a whole. I don't know how you. I guess if you weren't Akira Yamaoka, you'd be fired right now.
Right.
Because that is not so subtle. So yeah, I think we will see a new Silent Hill in the coming years. I don't think we'll see 2 of them. Right? I think one of these is probably more true than the other, unless maybe they're co-developing it. I don't know. I just can't imagine you're going to see 2 Silent Hill games at
Well, I feel like everybody liked Silent Hill 2 a lot better than Silent Hill 1. I'm one of those weirdos that like the original better, but I also know that game does not hold up in the gameplay department nowadays at all, or the graphics department for that matter. But, man, back in the day, the original Silent Hill was a spooky game, man. That whole, air raid siren going off and the world transforms was just so freaking cool.
Maybe one of these games is a remake of Silent Hill and the other is a continuation.
That's what I'm hoping.
Okay.
That's what I'm hoping. I replayed that one so much, I saw all the endings. Did you know there's an ending of Silent Hill where there's a UFO?
Yes, I didn't know this.
It was super weird.
There's an ending to Silent Hill 2 where a dog was controlling the events of the game.
I did not play through Silent Hill 2 that many times. I did not like Silent Hill 2 as much, but I played it later in life, so.
I love what they did with the narrative and the aesthetic and the visual storytelling of Silent Hill 2, but I cannot play it. I think it just plays like garbage.
Yeah.
It's hard to get through. I would love for that game to get remade. That'd be cool. Because they've already remade Silent Hill 1 on the Wii, right?
Did they?
The Shattered Memories?
Was that a remake of the original? I did not know that.
Yeah. I think it is a loose retelling of the original, but it was.
Well, regardless, we'd both be down for some more Silent Hill. Because we all love to see twitching nurses. Those were so creepy, too.
Just don't bring Pyramid Head back. That's what you can't do.
Man, I think a lot of people will disagree with you.
But Pyramid Head himself was intrinsically tied to James in Silent Hill 2.
Mm-hmm.
He's a manifestation of his sexual depravity.
Oh, so they can't get away with this, is what you're saying?
No, so I'm saying every time Pyramid Head showed up after that, it was just he lost his impact because he was tied into the narrative of Silent Hill 2, and then after that, he was just like a monster.
Oh, gotcha.
But you're right, you cannot get away with a Silent game without Pyramid Head.
Gotcha.
There's no way. People would riot.
Well, let's go ahead and move on. Just want to remind everybody that we do have a Patreon available if you'd like to help fund the show with some bonus episodes. As CB usually mentions, we did an episode on Captain N the Game Master that I would highly recommend you checking out. It was a lot of fun reminiscing about that old cartoon from I believe it was the late 80s, early 90s that I loved as a kid. Not so much as an adult, but it was still fun to go back and revisit. Also, we got a Break the Seal episode coming up on a game on NES called Star Tropics. And CB has planned an episode on video game peripherals. And if you know anything about CB, the man has a pretty sizable collection, many peripherals that we're going to kind of go through and review and talk about. So stay tuned for that. But if any of that interests you,
You have
check
to
out
discuss the Steel Battalion controller, right?
the Steel Battalion. He's got that.
Yeah, I'm saying that's the peripheral, if you ask me.
I feel like that almost has to be a video podcast so that people can see us actually using all this stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because this doesn't make for an audio, so we got to figure out how to make that video in some way or fashion somehow. Because it's not going to work. But anyway, if any of those podcasts or extra episodes sound interesting to you and you'd like to help us out, head over to patreon.com/thegocast. You can contribute as little as $1 per month, and that'll actually give you early access to each of our episodes, so you can get that a day early. But tiers of $3 and $5 will give you one extra episode or 2 episodes, respectively. And like I said, it helps us pay for the show and also give back to the community in a big way. Let's go ahead now and jump into the games we've actually been playing. So what's up this week? Am I getting another break?
You might. I don't know. Well, you actually won't. I correct myself. Right at the top, we have Persona 5 Strikers, which is a sequel and a spin-off to Persona 5 on PS4, Switch, and PC, February 23rd. That is a Muso, one of those Omega Force, giant Dynasty Warriors kind of games.
Gotcha.
I don't know how... They must be one hell of pitchmen at Omega Force to be telling these canon stories to other people's properties.
Right?
Isn't that crazy? Like, I can't imagine anybody else getting away with that. But then for you, Scott, Ghosts and Goblins gets resurrected with Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection on Switch for February 25th.
So excited.
I believe you. Hellpoint is a sci-fi horror Souls-like coming to Switch February 25th. It looks very appealing to me. Mm-hmm. Forward to the Sky is a kind of a cute-looking platformer coming to Switch February 25th. Republic, if you remember this from many years ago, is it was Ryan Payton, who worked with Hideo Kojima on Metal Gear Solid 4, went off and made his own studio, made a stealth game called Republic, and that it's getting ported to Switch on February 25th. Bravely Default 2 coming to Switch February 26th. Big week for the Switch. Bravely Default is, of course, the JRPG sequel. And then Retromania Wrestling coming to PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC February 26th. What is calling out to you, Scott?
Obviously, Ghosts and Goblins Resurrection. But there's something about Retromania Wrestling that just reminds me of some wrestling games I played in arcade when I was a kid.
I did not expect this.
I know. There was a WWF game that was in the arcade near my house. Andre the Giant, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan.
Were you into wrestling back in the day?
No,
back
not
in your
at
day?
all.
Oh, okay.
Not at all. But this game, when you have an arcade that has 2 cabinets and one of them is this game, you're going to play it at some point. And I did. Understood.
I was huge into wrestling when I was a kid. It happened to be during the 90s Attitude Era, so Stone Cold and The Rock and Kane, Undertaker, all that. It was definitely the peak, I think, if you ask anybody.
See, do the names I say, are you familiar with those?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, those people were still being talked about when I was watching wrestling.
Okay.
But I couldn't tell you anything that's happening in the modern era. But I
couldn't tell you anything that was happening ever. The story is like, I don't know.
They had a WWE subscription service. Well, I think they still do. But I subscribed for 1 month and just rewatched a hell of a lot of 90s wrestling a couple years ago, and it was a hell of a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
I've never got it. Never got it.
For me, I think Hellpoint looks the coolest on this list. It was on PS4, I want to say last year. But but the Switch Marketplace has battered me to the point where a $35 Souls-like, I'm like, is it really worth it though? Because the Switch Marketplace is a race to the bottom. Pretty much. And I'm all for it. Sure, yeah, as a consumer, I can wait to play this game.
Exactly. That's how I feel about a lot of games lately. Is I'll just wait. I don't need to play it on day one.
I get more and more that way as well.
But speaking of a game you have been playing on day one, you've been checking out a game on Switch called Anodyne 2, which I'm really interested to hear your take on it because you are a fan of the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 Xbox era. And from a graphical standpoint, this looks like a game that was built during that time, but it's a brand new game. So, am I off in that assessment, or is that fair?
No, that is totally fair. It is harkening back to the PS2, PS1 era specifically. Like it even feel like when you jump, it feels like a PS1 platformer.
Okay, I know exactly what you say by that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is wicked cool. However, half of the game is like a Super Nintendo Zelda game.
Oh, I'm okay. I'm sold.
It is Anodyne 2 Return from Dust is the full title, and I got to tell you, Scott, it's one of the most bizarre video games I've ever played.
In a good way?
To be decided. You know what? It starts in a bad way.
Okay.
Kind of weird, where I'm like, this is too much. You're going out of your way. But now that I've put like 3-4 hours into it, and you see a little bit more of it, it's definitely still the weirdest freaking thing it possibly could be. Okay. But now it's almost to the point where you're like, well, what the hell could you possibly think up next that would be weirder than this?
So you want to push forward just to see what they're going to do next.
Like one of the first characters I met was a person who loved food so much that they eventually lost a taste for it because they had tasted everything. So they were cursed with their whole body is made up of tongue. So now they can experience all these new flavors of the world. And I was like, well, that's freaking weird. And then I went down an alleyway, and a mommy worm with their 4 baby worms were eating some milk, and they were giving me the player nutritional information about milk. And then so I got to tell you, man, it's a weird game.
It sounds like it.
And the very basic premise is you're playing as this character named Nova, who can shrink down to nano size and go inside of characters. And you're using a vacuum cleaner to clean out the dust inside of them, because the whole world is getting infected with dust.
I never got any of this vibe from the trailer. The trailer I watched made this seem like a very serious toned game.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because then when you're clearing people of this dust, you're also like assisting them with their mental health issues. So it is also serious. Like this person with the tongue, baffled. Right? Like is obsessed with, where you meet like an old lady in her house, and she's like she was one of the world's foremost collectors of lampshades.
This sounds made up.
But you kind of like help her release her of the greed that has consumed her life, essentially, when you're clearing out this dust.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's something else, and I really found it off-putting at first, but now I'm at the point of now I'm into it. Now I'm like, what the hell are you gonna do next?
So talk to me about this like Super Nintendo Zelda portion of the game.
Right, let me get there. Okay, so the overworld is this PS1 graphics looking thing, and that has some 3D platforming in it, and you can also your character could transform into a car on command, and
this just seriously sounds like it's completely made up. Like you just like totally just came up with all this in the top of your head.
It's funny because after I had the encounter with the worm family, I was like, and I was traversing the back alleyways of this city. I was like, how is this what acid is like? Do I finally know? Like, this story feels like it could only be been told with a writer who was on hallucinogens.
Right.
Like, like how do you come up with this stuff? You know, the imagination required is absurd. But anyway, you're driving around in your human car thing that you are. You can transform whatever you want. It's pretty fun. But then when you meet characters, and you could talk to any NPC, of course, but there are some who are you can tell are off kilter, or their problems are a little louder than other people, and the game will prompt you to you will shoot them with like this laser beam a few times, and that softens up their mind and body for you to jump into them, so you can clean them up. Where you will then have to engage. So you're doing a 3D platformer, right? Right. You're finding these characters, almost adventure game style. Mm-hmm. Then you're shooting with these lasers, and then you have to do a brief rhythm game to unlock your way into the character.
What?
But then, once you get inside of the character, it is a top-down dungeon puzzler, very much like Zelda, and including like it has, you have one screen at a time, like say A Link to the Past or the Oracle Seasons. I would say it makes you think of Game Boy games more, but I don't know why, because that's just the Super Nintendo in terms of power anyway. But anyway, and you have your little vacuum thing. In the first few dungeons, I was just like, why are you doing this 3D 2D shift? Like this is kind of, the dungeons are just so mind-numbingly easy in the first hour of the game. Right. But then it gets more complex, introduces more ideas, and it's puzzles. Like it is Zelda style puzzles. It'll be switch puzzles or keys, or like one clever puzzle was you have to burn down this bush, right? And in the whole dungeon, you've been being shot at by these fire turrets, but you could sometimes trick them into burning down the door. But you couldn't in this area, so you had to suck up an enemy and then shoot them through the firewall as being shot at you to the door. And I was like, that's a Zelda-ass puzzle right there.
Right, it totally is.
And that is what half of this game is these Zelda-style dungeons. And you find the boss key, you go fight the boss. I will say all of the boss battles have been really boring and disappointing so far. Mm-hmm. They are all use your vacuum to suck up the blocks in the room and then shoot the blocks at the boss. Every boss has been this. It's really disappointing. But the dungeons before getting there, like now I'm in this rhythm. Like I want to do the puzzles. Like, I'm excited about it.
You're kind of selling me on this game, man.
I just have to warn you, it's weird.
Well, I gathered that, but now it's one of those that it sounds so weird. I have to see it just to believe it.
Right, and I'm only scratching the surface. In terms of the weirdness, and there's a lot of fun hidden stuff in the overworld to find, and it's just it's surprising. It sneaks up on you that it's good because the very first world is it's too much, right? It's you're hatching yourself out of your own egg at the beginning of the game, and you're talking to the different yolks inside of the egg with you, and they're telling you facts about cereal and nutritional breakfasts and stuff, and the 2D sections are like really short and easy, so you're like, what the hell is this game even supposed to be?
Did I watch the wrong trailer?
No, the trailer looks incredibly. It's almost like the zombie game with the incredibly serious trailer, but then it ended up being a weird, funny game. Dead Island, yeah. The trailer for this game, has like that really understated music in the trailer, and it makes you think you're going to like an ethereal plane. You're like, man, this kind of almost looks mythic. What's going on here? Yeah, that's not the tone of the game at all.
I'm kind of intrigued. I kind of have to play this game now.
I feel like it's to the detriment of the game that they don't front load the weirdness more.
I feel like that would be a selling point because I wasn't super sold on the trailer. It just seemed kind of like standard fare to me when I saw the trailer.
Right.
But you sell that weird stuff, and I feel like it would do better.
And then like these weird, like the just helping people with their problems thing that you end up doing is also, it just feels nice, That
feels like a Psychonauts kind of.
Yes, it is. That's exactly what it made me think of.
Mm-hmm.
In terms
Psychonauts meets Inner Space.
Right. The difference being that every brain world feels pretty similar to the last.
Gotcha. So are you recommending it?
Yeah, I would. If you like something a little bit different, I would definitely pick it up. Just not. Yeah, the bosses suck, and I don't. Yeah, you're not going to get like lost in this grand story or this deep lore, but you're definitely going to be intrigued into what the hell can they think of next.
Interesting. Again, that is called Anodyne 2, and you're playing that on Switch.
But it's on everything now. I think it came to PC last year. And you do not need to play Anodyne 1 at all. It's about the first Anodyne's about a whole different character doing a whole different thing, and that one's only 2D.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, play this game, and it's an experience.
All right. I'm kind of sold. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of sold on this game, so I may have to check that out.
I think it's worth checking out for sure.
All right. Well, Well, I brought a couple friends by to talk about some games that they've been checking out for us. So Rel and Alyssa both stopped by to chat with me. I'd like to share with you their thoughts on a couple games they played right now. I am here with my good friends Rel and Alyssa. Rel, how you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. Fatherhood is beautiful torture.
That's what I hear from everybody. How old is he now?
He is almost 2 years old. He's got a couple of weeks until his second birthday.
That's insane. I can't believe it's been 2 years already. Well, thanks for being here, man. And also, Alyssa, how have you been, my dear?
I've been better, but I'm hanging on.
Oh, no. Well, I hope things pick up for you. But
Thank you.
I'm glad. If you need anything, let me know for sure. Let me know.
Thank you.
Oh, let's start with Rel. Rel, you've been playing a game for us called 30XX from developer Battery Staple. I think I missed the last word on that. Battery Staple. Boy, this is awful of me. Do you remember that?
I don't.
It is Battery Staple Games. Wow, I couldn't come up with the word games. Battery Staple Games, and it was provided to us by Stride PR, so shout out to that PR firm for hooking us up. Man, I did not play 20XX, and I regret it.
You missed out.
Because I love me some Mega Man X, and this looks like straight up Mega Man X.
It is.
Yeah, can you let everybody know? But it's like a speedrun version, right?
No, I mean, you can speedrun it. No, it's a roguelike version.
Oh, okay.
Which means that the levels are randomized.
Oh, roguelike.
Yeah. The levels are randomized. The items you can get along the way are randomized. There are specific bosses for specific stages, but the order in which you play the stages is random. And so you might end up not being able to fight a boss with their particular weakness. But hopefully, once you learn the patterns, you won't necessarily need it.
Right. So you just get good at the game as opposed to relying on a certain order or certain weaknesses.
That tends to be the way it goes for Mega Man games in general, and also roguelikes in general, because the more you play them, the more you learn the patterns, the more or the better you're able to do against bosses or against certain enemies, and the further you can progress. And that was the case with 20XX, and also the case with 30XX as well.
So what's the difference between 20XX and 30XX as a guy that's not played the first one?
In terms of like upgrades, the graphics are, let me put it this way, they've gone from sort of cartoonish Super Nintendo to more Mega Man Zero era on the Game Boy Advance and DS, but a lot cleaner and with a lot more detail, if that makes any sense.
Gotcha.
In terms,
controls still slick,
buttery
smooth, I assume.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly the same as the first game. If you've ever played a Mega Man Mega Man X game or Zero, you'll be able to jump right into this. It's dead easy to control,
Very cool.
Not to beat.
Now, you're playing this on early access, though, right?
Yes. And normally I don't really go in for early access games because it's hard to review them since not everything is in the game. And so, this is mostly preview, but it's already very good. They've already got, I think they said 6 total stages currently in early access, along with, the requisite bosses, mini bosses, enemies. And it feels really good. It plays really good. There's already unlockables that you can get. So this isn't so much a roguelike as a roguelite. It uses that formula where you can gather currency over the course of your runs and use that to unlock like permanent health upgrades, energy upgrades, chests that you can open at the start of a run in order to get a power up to sort of like make you stronger sooner, that sort of thing.
Okay. I really wish this game were on console. I know you're playing it on PC. This game needs to come to console because I love Mega Man X and I love roguelikes. It seems to be marrying two things that I just absolutely adore, and I'm really mad that I can't play it. I mean, I have a Mac. I could probably play it if it's on Mac. I don't even know.
So the original game, 20XX, did come out for the Switch. I forget if it came out for other consoles, but I know it came out for Switch. I would imagine this one would come out for Switch as well. So if you have that available, it will likely come there. I'm not confirming anything. I'm just saying, they got the first game on Switch, probably going to have the sequel there too.
All right. And do you recommend everyone check this one out?
I would recommend, if you liked 20XX, obviously, buy into it. Now, obviously, because it's early access, if you want to wait for the finished product, obviously, hold off a little bit because the game is obviously not done. There's one NPC even that if you talk to her, she says, hi, this is the early access version of the game, so I don't have much to say yet. And yeah,
that's kind of clever.
Yeah, they put in a little bit of humor there and poke fun at themselves. And so if you want to wait for the actual release, maybe hold off. But if you already know that you're going to enjoy it, you want to be part of the process during its development, be able to share feedback with the devs, obviously get in on it. I'm certainly going to put in a few more runs and see how far I can get.
Very cool. Well, thanks so much, Rel, for checking that out. I am eagerly anticipating trying it myself. Maybe I need to just go back and pick up 20XX on Switch.
I would recommend it, yeah.
All right. You sold me, and then I'll be ready for 30XX when and if it comes to Switch as well.
Absolutely.
Alyssa, I called you Lissa. Alyssa.
That is fine, by the way.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
You've been playing a game called Dry Drowning, coming from Studio V Games, provided to us by Renaissance PR. And boy, visual novel, that's just like your bag, I feel like.
I love visual novels. I love every genre, pretty much every genre, but I just gravitate toward them.
Yeah, I can tell. Those are the ones that you always ask me to review, which is great because nobody else on our team wants to. But I gotta say, watching the trailer for Dry Drowning, it intrigued me because the art style is interesting. I mean, it's all still there's no motion or animation. It's more background stuff. I'm not gonna say it's photorealistic, but it just they look like real people.
They do. They really do. Even in the game, they look like real people.
Now, is there any? They don't even have like any mouth movement. There's just text going while they do it.
Nope, just text.
And you know what? I don't think there's a problem with that. I think the art is so beautiful from what I've seen. I haven't played it. I'm just going off of the trailer. It looks really, really intriguing, and you seem to really dig it. What makes this game so great?
So what makes it really great is this is a murder mystery game. So you're solving or trying to solve a murder. And you play as this detective named Mordred, and he and his assistant Hera thought years ago they had convicted who they call the Pandora killer, but then more killings are happening that are repeating the same pattern, so you have to deduce, is Pandora still alive? Did they convict the wrong people? And it's set in the future. It's very kind of Blade Runner-ish, but not that far advanced.
Yeah, very noir-esque.
It's gorgeous, it's intriguing. You can make different choices that affect your outcome and change your story, and you never know what the right choice is or if there even is a right choice. So it's always
okay. So shades of gray instead of black and white. That sounds really intriguing. The trailer said something like 150 different branching paths and 3 different main story endings, which reminds me of games like Heavy Rain or those other Quantic Dream games where you just have so many different possibilities of the story. Is that what you got here?
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. Is this one you recommend our listeners check out?
For sure. Even if you're not usually a fan of visual novels, I think the murder mystery aspect of it is so compelling and the visuals are gorgeous. It does have some puzzles in it, but they're not that difficult. I think all of that just makes it such a well fleshed out game that you don't really need to be a fan of visual novels. And it's not like you're reading, a novel every time you're on screen. It's just a few sentences. So it's pretty easy to read, too.
So there's not voice acting, it's just straight text? There's not even any voices?
There's no voice acting, but I didn't mind that because I felt like I was kind of hearing the characters in my head.
Oh, very cool.
It's really well written and just, it really immerses you.
That sounds interesting. And it looks like this one's actually on console as well, if I saw it correctly. I know you played it on PC, correct?
Switch.
Oh, Switch. Okay, so it's on Switch. But I think I saw it on Xbox as well, so that may be one I need to check out because I haven't had like a good relaxing visual novel in a while, and I've been playing a lot of Twitch style games, so this one sounds like it might be something I need to do. Well, Alyssa, thank you for checking that one out. Again, it's called Dry Drowning, And Rel, Alyssa, both of you, thanks for being here and taking the time to check out these games for us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having me and for providing me the game code because I had such a blast with it.
Awesome. Glad you enjoyed it. We'll catch you guys later.
All right.
Bye.
Later.
One quick reminder before we get to our topic, actually a few quick reminders. We have our Facebook page, which can be found at facebook.com/groups/thegocast. And we have quite a few new members this week that joined. Want to say hello to Tyler Estel, Christian Buttermore, Nick Johnson, Cameron Zoldak, and James Ross. Also, we do have a Discord server available. We got lots of good conversations going on there, as well as a good place to meet up and do some online gaming with some people from the community. No new members this week, but the link for that is in the show notes. So please come by, say hi, check it out, and would love to play with you. Also, as a reminder, if you do get a moment, give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We'd love to hear what you think of the show. We do take those to heart, and we will do our best to improve the show the best we can. Also, Zack's written review for Haven, which he talked about last week, is on the site, which can be found at thegamingoutsiders.com, along with all our other reviews, podcasts, and any other ramblings that we may decide to put up there on the site. Now let's go ahead and jump into our From the Outside In topic. As I mentioned at the top of the show, February 21st was the 35th anniversary of The Legend of Zelda. Although it wouldn't release in North America until August of the following year, it was the beginning of one of the biggest franchises in video game history. So this seemed like a really good time to reminisce about these games, especially since it's very important to both Zack and I. And I know not a lot of people like Zelda, but this is just a prime opportunity to just gush about why we like the series, what some of our favorites are, and which titles we missed on. So Zack, I did a little bit of research before prepping for the show here, and I actually learned a few things, and I wanted to share them with you. I don't know if you had done any research as well, or am I the only nerd here?
No. Hey, look, man. I feel like I normally do the history lessons, so it's exciting for you to lead the charge here.
All right. Well, The Legend of Zelda, again, we talked about it, released 35 years ago in Japan. Shigeru Miyamoto, who is one of the fathers of video games, in my opinion. I know he wasn't there in the Pong days, but he's on the Mount Rushmore of video games, right? He's got to be.
He unquestionably. As simple as the stories are, I feel like he has such an important role of introducing narrative to video games, or even just like context, even.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he based the original game on his own childhood memories of exploring in a forest and in the caves, as well as navigating his maze-like home. I thought that was interesting. The name Zelda, this I learned. I did not know this. The name Zelda was inspired by F. Scott Fitzgerald's wife from Alabama. They were both from Alabama.
Now, I knew Fitzgerald's wife was named Zelda, but I didn't know that Miyamoto cared enough.
I didn't either. I mean, again, this is based off of a site that I found, so
I don't know if
I got it wrong.
I don't know if you've got this on here later, but of course, Robin Williams named his daughter Zelda after the video game.
Yes. I think she was 4 years old. Either 4 years? No.
No, she's 31 now.
Right, yeah. She was.
Which I only know because she was telling people that they're a little bit early on the 35th birthday wishes.
Yeah, because they kept wishing her a happy birthday. Like, happy 30th birthday, Zelda. No, not me. The actual game.
Yeah.
This was interesting. The Triforce, which, the three triangles, for those that aren't familiar with what the Triforce is, it was modeled after the Hojo clan emblem from the 13th and 14th century. It was called the Mitsu-Uroko, and translates to the three dragon scales. I thought that was interesting.
Did not know.
I thought this was funny. Japan didn't think that the game would do well in America because we lack the patience, which is fair. So Nintendo started a hotline to help Americans navigate through the game, which turned into a service that they eventually charged for. But they did not charge for it at the beginning.
Well, it's fun. I feel like it's well, no, I guess Metroid is the franchise that's more popular here than Japan. I'm trying to remember.
Metroid
in terms
is,
of,
yes.
Yeah. I just always think of Zelda as like almost the more American game, but I guess it is super popular there as well. Metroid, because that's why they don't make them ever.
Because Japan doesn't like them.
They don't sell well in Japan.
Yeah. 3 games exist that were released only on a non-Nintendo platform called the Philips CDI. Those 3 games were Link, The Faces of Evil, Zelda, The Wand of Gamelon, and Zelda's Adventure. And I will tell you, they're not good games. We actually did a Games That Aren't For Us episode on these 3 games a while back. It was the first time I had played them. I actually own 2 of those games in my collection, by the way.
They make for very classic memes.
Yes, they do. Yes, they will. Excuse me.
But they are awful.
Actually, that was from the TV show, wasn't it?
I think it was from the animated series, which is also not great.
Right. The Japanese version of the original game, which was the Famicom, did you know this? Included a microphone in the controller that you could blow on to defeat the Pole's voice enemies in the original Legend of Zelda.
Now that you are reading it to me, it does sound like something I did know, but it's not something I retained, I guess you could say. I
actually did know that one going into it. It's weird that, I guess our controller didn't have a microphone in it, so that's why, but this was cool. The game was originally supposed to use Bolero as its theme music. Are you familiar with Bolero? Classical piece of music? You would know it if you heard it.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
They couldn't secure the rights for that music, so Koji Kondo was commissioned to write the theme, and we all know and love that song to this day. It's pretty iconic.
Perhaps the most iconic piece of video game music ever written.
Man, I think the original Super Mario Brothers theme.
I said perhaps. I preface with perhaps.
So I didn't want to overwhelm us with just tons of facts about The Legend of Zelda, but I thought that was some fun tidbits about my favorite video game series. Let's dive into it, though, Zach. What is it about The Legend of Zelda that makes it so special to you? Because I know, just like me, it holds a special place in your heart, but I want to know why.
Oh man, as for the why, that's interesting. I think I am dead certain I played A Link to the Past, but I feel like the first one I really fell in love with was Ocarina of Time, because I am younger than you, and I think it was just the first time. You know, it is very much that classic the hero's journey, right? Of the young outsider rising to his call to action and all of that. It felt mythic. It felt epic. It just felt like you were on a grand adventure. Ocarina of Time really made you feel it, and I think, you know, as a 7-year-old, that really appealed to me. The idea of saving the princess and recovering the sword that was meant for you. You know, it's just compelling stuff. And then the high bar of quality that spun from the franchise around it. Like, I played every Zelda game, you know, and while I'm not in love with it as much as I used to be, I was dead obsessed with it when I was a kid. You know, they were my favorite games. Like when I met my father, I met my father later in life. The one thing my mom told him about me was that I would love Zelda. So the first time I met him, he had a copy of Zelda Link's Awakening waiting for me. You know, as a new father bribe, I guess.
And you hadn't played it at that point?
No, I think it might have been the color re-release.
Oh, okay.
So it was, which I get, you know, actually in hindsight, maybe it was a giant middle finger to me since I'm colorblind. But and then like I remember there are these dumb little like stone walkway tablets, like cement tiles that my grandma has made me and my sister when we were super young. And everything on there is freaking Zelda related. Like I put a boomerang on there in the cement. I signed it as Link in this cement tile.
That's awesome.
I like drew rupees and stuff. I was a gargantuan Zelda nerd. I used to make greeting cards for my family for holidays and stuff when I was an adorable little kid. My logo on the back was Master Sword card designs.
Nice.
So my first username online was DarkLink1000. So yeah, man, the franchise was so formative to me and my relationship to video games in general.
Awesome, man. I love how you talked about it feeling like you're going on an adventure. It really felt like that Bilbo Baggins moment. Like, we're going on an adventure.
Yeah, very Bilbo, Frodo, Luke Skywalker, all of these classic, King Arthur even, all these classic hero fables. You were in one.
Not only that, but like especially with Ocarina of Time, I was one of those weirdos as a kid, or even into my adult years. Like when I watch a movie or a TV show, sometimes my favorite parts are the mundane character building stuff at the beginning, where you're just getting to know the characters, doing just, not saving the world type things. Like at the beginning of Ocarina of Time, when, you're just looking for your sword and shield. You know what I mean? And like, I have to...
You're trying to save up enough money to buy the shield.
Right.
And whatnot.
Like, and to me, that was an important pacing aspect of Ocarina in particular, was I just got to do things at my own speed. I never felt rushed. I could just explore and do whatever I wanted. And when you're a kid and you have oodles of time, you're looking for things to fill the time instead of nowadays where we're looking to try to get through as many games as we can as quickly as possible.
Right.
And trying to find time to squeeze together to play a game. It was just the opposite when you're a kid. And the sheer size of a game like Ocarina, even Link to the Past, even the original Legend of Zelda, it just felt so much grander than anything that we had before that, and it just felt very special. For me, I had self-esteem issues when I was a kid. I was raised in a very religious environment that came down on you and constantly told you were a bad person, and I never felt really good about myself, and I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself for that reason. And I played the original Legend of Zelda as a kid, really liked it. I'll get back to my point about self-esteem in a second. The first time I ever played Zelda, I was visiting a college campus as a young kid. It was like a thing through my school where you got to spend the night in a college dorm. It was a big deal. And whatever college kid's dorm I stayed in had a Nintendo and had the original Legend of Zelda, and I had never seen it before. I will never forget the first time I saw that. I sat there, I heard the music, I watched what he was doing. I thought it was cool that a sword was shooting out other swords. Like, that was just a novel concept to me. And, my however old my brain was at the time, it had played things like Mario and Bubble Bobble and, things that were just very arcadey and never had a grandiose story attached to it. And when I realized how large a game could be and how, a game needed to be saved, it wasn't like Mario 3 where you just turned it on and you had to sit and beat the game in one sitting. You had a save file. That was the first time I had seen that, where you actually had to put your name in. You could put your own name instead of the main character's name.
Scott could go on the adventure.
Right? And Zelda 2 came around and it was different, but I was determined to beat it, and I did as a kid. That was a struggle. Shadow Link was no joke as a young kid. But coming back to my thing with self-esteem, Link to the Past came out. And it had been out for a while before I got my hands on it, but I went to a buddy's sleepover, and you know how you fire up those games, and there's always your buddy's save file is on there.
Mm-hmm.
My buddy had played it, and he was at the final boss, and I'm like, I'll just try this out. So my first time ever playing Link to the Past, I fought Ganon. No idea how to play the game, just decided to run up and try to smash. Obviously, I got destroyed because I had no idea what I was doing. But that boss fight alone stood out to me so much, and I will never to this day forget what Ganon looks like, in that final boss when he's flinging that spear around or whatever. And I was so intrigued, and I could not wait to get my hands on the game. And so I got the game, I borrowed it from the same buddy, obviously started my own save file, started from the beginning. And for the first time in my life, a video game made me feel smart. Because the game, for a kid, wasn't easy. You know, it wasn't just jump on top of the Goombas and get the mushroom and hit the flagpole. You had to use your brain.
Right.
And the fact that I was playing a video game and using my brain and being successful, and that chime that sounds, the or whatever, I can't do it, sing it right, but that sound was like this Pavlovian, I did a good thing. I'm smart. I don't care what those people say about me. I accomplished something here that somebody else was not able to do. And I think that's why the Legend of Zelda series has stuck with me, outside of the reasons that you mentioned about it being like an adventure, like just the open world nature of it, and having the freedom to go anywhere and do anything you want. But for me, it was a therapy for me, because I felt like I was good at something. And I'll never forget that. And that's probably why Link to the Past holds such a special place in my heart, because it's the first time that I felt I was like video games could be something bigger than what my parents looked at video games as being. You know what I mean? Oh, you just turn the volume down. That those noises are really annoying. And you know how every movie portrays somebody playing a video game. They're just beeps and boops or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, Zelda. All right, that's a cool story, Scott. Thanks for sharing. But I mean, Zelda. Yeah, you're right. Zelda was, I guess, for both of us, just in different ways, like so formative for critical thinking skills.
Right.
Honestly, you know, they're
executive functioning.
Sure. And but they wrap it around in a cool, you know, story about saving the day and action combat.
Mm-hmm.
But then they cleverly tuck in these moments where you have to use your brain too. It's good stuff. And to your point though about the intros, Zelda games are so great at intros, except for Skyward Sword. Right. You know, they make you feel like you're a part of the world. They give you, you know, when you go off and save, when you go beat Ganon, you're sure you're saving Hyrule and you're rescuing Zelda, but you're protecting your Kokiri Forest.
Right.
You know, like it gives you a personal stake right from the start. And, you know, to the traditional hero's journey storytelling method, your call to action to leave the forest, you know, that's not something you're watching a character do or reading about them do. Like, you have to push Link to go on this journey where, you know, his life could end at any moment. You're the one who is making that choice. And it's powerful.
And it was also really cool that it didn't do the level up thing. You know what I mean? Like a traditional RPG does, where like there's no grinding in this game. The grinding in this game is, again, searching and finding, you know, heart containers. That's really the only thing you level up, is heart containers and your magic meter, right?
Yeah.
You're not leveling up like agility or anything like that.
Yeah, but
you just get some cool weapons.
You're finding items, which I think is just an infinitely more compelling game design method.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and any game that copies Zelda is better for it when they do it.
Right. I mean, remember the first time you played some of those games and you had no idea what was going to be in that chest that was going to contain that item? And then you open it up and just that sense of wonder, you're like, what does this do? What's going to happen?
I always, I always say Ocarina of Time is the most important game ever made. And the example I always use is when you discover that the hook shot can be used on wooden signs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's just something that the game doesn't tell you, that it just makes enough sense in your head that I'm going to try it out. And the game responded to it. It's just brilliant. Absolutely brilliant game design. That is just a Nintendo way of doing things, for sure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the excitement of fighting... Oh, sorry, I guess I'm on a roll here. Of like finding, you're like finding the boomerang, and then the dungeon after that is just it's a test of that item you got, and then the boss fight is the final exam. It's just the brilliant games every time. Except for Breath of the Wild is obviously very different.
And yeah, and that's one thing we'll get to in a bit, talking about the specific games which are our favorites. Although you probably have a good idea where we stand right now, but we're going to hear from our listeners as well. And I love that aspect of it. The way you just said it is a way I've never heard in words, and it's like seriously poetic. the level is the assessment.
Oh yeah.
And then the boss is the final exam. That's just a brilliant way to put that I just really loved.
Really, a teacher phrased it for you.
Yeah, right. And the boss battles, they're pretty simple. They were never like overly difficult boss battles, but they still made you think at the same time. You always knew you were going to use that weapon in some way. So how am I going to use this boomerang? How am I going to use this hook shot? How am I going to use this, fire rod or whatever to beat this boss? And sometimes you didn't even have to. Sometimes there's other ways to do it, and I just loved it.
But every boss felt so unique, and therefore is memorable throughout the whole franchise. Even right, like the Twin Rova sisters in Ocarina of Time, and Spirit Temple bosses, where you use a mirror shield to reflect the sun into them to separate. Like, I think about that boss fight often. Like, I just think it's such a clever piece of video game mechanic.
I think of that temple. I think that was my favorite temple in that game.
Yeah,
where you had to like line up the sun all over around, and it was just so cool. Like, games didn't do that at that point. It was awesome.
And to imagine, Scott, that game, I like how we're apparently just talking about Ocarina of Time a lot, but that game was their first time at bat in 3D.
Right.
You think of every other franchise struggling to get into 3D, and then the first time they did it, Nintendo, of course, did it back to back with Mario and Zelda. They did it back to, like, made timeless classics on their first try. That's insane.
Well done, Nintendo.
Yes.
Well done. Well, let's talk about some of our favorites from the series, and we can talk about some not so favorites, I guess, as well. But what stands out for you as games that you like the most?
Well, I'm going to let Drew Ross lead it here with, while my friends and I were big fans of Link to the Past growing up, Ocarina of Time was a game changer for all of us. I still remember going to school, discussing all the secrets we would find and where we were in the game. Nintendo really needs to remaster that game for the Switch. I always say remastering that's a dangerous move with a game that precious. However, Ocarina of Time, absolute game changer. I think it changed video games forever. And it is my second favorite Zelda game, but man, it is absolutely a stone cold stunner.
It really is. Did you see that Unreal Engine 4 version of it that's been floating around?
I did, and I've played it so many times, Ocarina, that it's just like seeing it pretty, like, almost messes with me.
I just want to play that game. I really want to play that game.
I'm worried, like, but if they change like one piece of the animation or something, like, everyone will notice.
It's true. Drew says in his comment about going to school, discussing the secrets and stuff, that's one thing that the internet has stripped us of, is those water cooler moments. I don't know what you call it, playground moments as a kid.
Yeah, because if you're a kid now, you could just be like, that's not true, and then look it up.
You just look it up. You just Google it. You don't even need to ask a friend. Just Google it. And trust me, I'm a technology guy. I love the technology. I love that it's there. But there's something about going to school or going and talking to a buddy in person and doing it. This isn't Zelda, but I remember in one of the Mario games, Super Mario Brothers, one of those, remember the blocks that you had to hit that would have a vine that would pop out and take you up into the cloud world?
Oh, yeah.
Which is literally nothing. If you think about it, it gets you some coins. That's like all that did. But as a kid, it was such a sense of wonder that there was something hidden that would take you to an extra stage. I remember going to school and my buddy, his name was Aaron, showing me, he actually drew me a map of that level and said, you're going to jump here, make sure you hit this block, and then jump on top of that and hit this block, and it'll do a vine. And I took it home and did it. And that experience was so cool. And I feel like the younger generation is never going to have that aha moment, of self-discovery, because everything is just, and I'm guilty of it. I Google stuff all the time if I'm stuck, but.
Yeah. I mean, for Zelda in particular, I remember we were obsessed with either, this is how you unlock the ability to play as Dark Link, or this is how you unfreeze Zora's
Zelda.
No, honestly, that did not come up. It was unfreezing Zora's domain was the big one for my friend group. We were all convinced you could unfreeze Zora's domain as an adult. All it took was you just have to get the topmost waterfall in there, jump off, yeah, you're going to take some damage, but if you can activate Din's Fire the second before you land, it'll melt the ice in the whole city. It's absurd. We kept trying, of course.
I always wonder how those rumors start.
I want to know how the kid who told me that I had to play through the entire first Smash Bros. Game on very hard with every character without losing a life at all would unlock Metal Mario. Like, how did that spread throughout the school? We all knew this. We were all like, yeah, man, I've been trying for weeks. And then you finally do it, and you're like, what? What?
I would be so mad.
Me and Marlish were furious. Yeah, I mean, but for me, my favorite game in the series is Majora's Mask.
Majora's Mask. Is it because it's just so different? They tried something new.
I do like the melancholic atmosphere throughout the whole game. That seems to be a theme with me in video games. Just this tinge of sadness over everything.
I did like that about the game. The moon constantly, that presence being there, even though you could just use your whistle or your ocarina and start over again. It was never oppressive, but it just felt ominous.
Yes, yeah, a constant sense of foreboding, and then like just so much sadness in every character you met. But honestly, sold the game for me, and I think it has fantastic dungeons. Some of the best dungeons in the franchise, especially when you're transforming into the Zoras and all that. Mm-hmm. Great stuff. I think Majora's Mask is the best water dungeon to this day. It was the focus on the side quests, focus on the characters, because yes, and the fact that it was a sequel to Ocarina of Time, I think helps it too, because you're playing as a Link who's done this before, you've saved the world, etc. And then this follow-up game is not interested in raising the stakes. Yes, Termina is going to get crashed into the moon, but that's nothing based on that's nothing compared to Ganondorf's plan, right? And the moment-to-moment gameplay is just helping people, really making their lives better. You help a couple about to be married. One of them has been cursed into a child form, and there's a whole quest line, and you have to go help them on certain times, on certain days, and you help reunite them as a couple, and make her realize oh my god, this is my husband just trapped in a child's body. Or you go do something dumb where you go outside at night and a woman is doing yoga, and you just help her, zen out and do her yoga, and you get the mask or whatever. But you're just, as sad as the game is, the game ends up being about healing people's sadness. And I just thought, as a kid who was obsessed with superheroes, it was kind of the first game, and it's still one of the few games that lets you feel like a hero of the people. You were helping. The game was about helping the little guy, and it's incredibly rare in video games, especially a big budget console exclusive game that it was not interested in raising the stakes at all. That was bold and really hit me when I was a kid.
Yeah, you kind of made me look at that game in a little different light, and it's not my favorite. You know that. I won't backtrack on that. I will say the dungeons were awesome. The dungeons were great in that game, but weren't there 4 of them?
That's why they were awesome, because they only had to make 4 of them. Right. The game before it had 12? Ocarina has 12. Yeah, I think 12 dungeons, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
That's insane. And that's not even canon Ganon's castle. So yeah, there's a lot. Right. So that was quite a drop off in the sequel.
So coming off of Ocarina of Time, I just wanted more Ocarina of Time. I wanted more dungeons. And for me, the ramp to get there was such a pain. I will never forget, what was the character that you could wear the mask and turn into and roll around?
Oh, yeah, I don't remember the character's name, but he was a Goron.
I just remember doing that forever, just trying to get from place to place because I just wanted to find the next dungeon. And where, I sound like I'm contradicting myself because I said I love the mundane stuff in early games, but I was a teenager by the time. Actually, I was in my 20s when Majora's Mask came out. So time was already getting more sparse. I probably would have liked it when I was, in my 10, 11, 12 years old, like you were when the game came out. So I just wanted to get moving.
to your mundanity point, like, there is a difference between, when Link is starting out his adventure, of course doing mundane tasks reminds you like he's just your average ordinary guy. But if the whole game is just helping people fish, I could see why that would be.
Right. And and the whole, like, I have to be here at a certain time, that was stuff I did not want to manage at all.
I did love that. Still love that. Like, that's so much of the reason I love Shenmue even.
Yeah.
It just helps you. It helps make me feel like I am in the world. I get why it's annoying to 98% of people, but for me and the 14 other Shenmue fans, we love it.
Right. Because see, my brain, when I hear that and I hear I got to be at this time I'm trying to think of the most economical use of my time to do all those things. You know what I mean? And it's just impossible. So I just wind up just doing one when it comes up and then doing another later. And, and then I waste a whole bunch of time because I didn't plan it out and I don't want to plan it out. I just want to play the game.
See, I love time loop stories. Majora's Mask is one of those. And as a kid with unlimited time, it was so much fun just picking, a character and then following them around for the 3 days to see what they get up to. What their routine was. That was super cool.
Yeah, just seeing the paths they take, like Truman Show style.
Yeah, like you get the farmers of the ranch, like, the guy, one of the guys by the end of the third day has been swindled out of his ranch, and you could just find him drinking, just getting wasted as the world's ending on the third day.
Yeah, wasn't he like drinking Lon milk or something?
yeah, of course, because it is Nintendo at the end of the day.
Did you have any others that you liked? I know that's like your favorite, but
yeah, I mean, I don't want to step over. I figure you and the listeners can go with your favorite games, and we could talk about some more after that.
All right, I got a comment from Michael Bonovich, who says, "A Link Before Time will always be special to me, yet have to admit how in awe I was with Ocarina of Time, especially the moment you leave your village and you just see the rolling hills of Hyrule. Then the realization of, oh, I can go anywhere, hits me." And I feel like we can't stress that enough. The first time you come into Hyrule Field, which by today's standards seems very, very tiny with other open world games. At the time, though, man, because as far as you know, the first time you play Ocarina of Time, the game opens in the forest. That is your entire world. That was Link's entire world.
Yeah,
going into that game.
And if you played it young enough, because it took you so long to get out of there, it really did feel like that was going to be the whole game.
Right. And then you just you come out there and it just slowly says Hyrule Field. I can hear the music in my head. That soft, like, da, 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 da. Oh, man.
And then just like things like Hyrule was gated off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is your first 3D world of its nature, so you see the gated off, you're like, oh, I guess I can't go here. But then you get Epona later, and you as the player do the mental math of, well, Epona can jump over the hurdles on the branch. I wonder if she could do anything with those gates at Lake Hyrule, and then it works.
Yep.
It's absolutely sublime game design.
Well, again, as an adult, we just kind of assume that's what's going to happen. But when you're a kid, it feels like you came up with something that wasn't designed that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do get you. But I think even if you were an adult when the game came out, and it was the first 3D game, really, that you still would not necessarily know. You'd probably have the cognitive function to suspect at a greater deal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Zelda games make you feel smart.
And again, the structure of that game, it doesn't feel like I'm going from level to level to level to level to level. The whole opening thing in the forest just feels like a separate game. And then you get into Hyrule Field and you just go anywhere you want to. I mean, you're eventually going to wind up at the castle where you have to sneak in and, talk to the princess behind that. But you don't have to. You can just go look at anything you want to. Now, you're going to be gated. Eventually, you're not going to get to stuff because you don't have some of the items, but you can still go discover it for yourself. And I just love that. I can get to Hyrule Castle when I get there. There's no rush. Right. And I think that's probably why Majora's Mask frustrated me, because I always felt like I had that clock on my back. Like I didn't have the time to explore.
And even when you did succeed and, say, beat a dungeon, you were then hit with immediate failure of, well, now you have to reset the clock or else you're going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, it is not it does not have the same feeling of adventure that every other Zelda has.
Right.
In that way.
Another comment from Jordan Derringer High. He says, "This series is my absolute favorite series in gaming. I started with Ocarina of Time, and the game forged a bond between my older brother and I while we played together on his N64. I've beaten that game in every kind of challenge way I can think of, including the 3-heart challenge, never picked up another heart container, heart piece, or the Great Fairy Power to take less damage. That's impressive. From then on, I played every Zelda game I could get my hands on. I have to say that I personally prefer the 3D over the 2D games, though. I'm even dedicating my right arm to a Zelda tattoo sleeve." And I had to read Jordan's comment because I have thought about getting a Zelda tattoo in some fashion over the years, and I've just never had the guts to pull the trigger. Just
right.
never
Well, you have no tattoos, correct?
Correct. None. I
What
feel
a
like
shame.
Is 40 too old to get a new tattoo?
No, man, never too old. I would say it's better. You should be more certain of what you want. I would think.
I would hope so. I've always
I feel pretty safe that you'll be comfortable with the Zelda tattoo.
I think so. Yeah, pretty interesting.
Your wife might find it hot, even.
No, she wouldn't. She really hates tattoos, which is probably a bigger factor than I'm letting on.
That is an unpopular opinion.
Yeah, my wife is
even Jason Momoa.
No. I mean, she likes Jason Momoa, but she would like it better if he didn't have tattoos.
That's mind blowing to me.
Yeah, she doesn't like facial hair, doesn't like beards.
Okay,
yeah.
All right. That's a different podcast now. I agree with Jordan. 3D over 2D, for sure.
I mean, what 3D ones did we get? We got Ocarina, Majora's Mask, Twilight Princess,
Wind Waker.
Oh, Wind Waker. Wind Waker I have a love-hate relationship with. I haven't played it since the GameCube era, and I spent a lot of time on that damn boat.
Yes.
I know they fixed that some with the newer version, but man, also awesome dungeons in that game. I need to replay that game.
Yeah, I really the only time I almost bought a Wii U was when they re-released Wind Waker.
Yeah.
That was the closest I ever got, especially when they had the Wind Waker tablet with the Hylian writing around the edge. It looks so slick.
Oh, I've got one.
I'm sure you do. New in the box, I would imagine.
It is new in the box. I'm actually considering getting that and a couple other items graded. Are you familiar with grading?
Yeah, sure. They do it in the comic book world a lot.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a new concept to me in the last year or two. So, but apparently that can make things really valuable.
Yeah, because then it removes the element of, well, is this true?
Right.
Yeah.
But I've got Breath of the Wild. I've got 5 copies of that game, including the Master Sword one that's never been opened.
Just funny because it's a game we haven't really talked about yet.
That's true. It's still a good game. It's still a really good game.
And then, but then Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild are also 3D.
Mm-hmm.
But then 2D, you have, Link to the Past, Zelda 1 and 2. The Oracle, both Oracle games are absolutely incredible.
I think that one of the most underrated Zelda games is Minish Cap.
Minish Cap's great. And I know, Capcom made Minish Cap and they made Oracle of Seasons and Ages. I think Seasons is probably the best of those batches.
Mm-hmm.
At least the one I remember the most. But Minish Cap is exceptional. I didn't care for Phantom Hourglass or what's the Ghost Train one?
Spirit
Tracks. I didn't, those games didn't blow me away, and that was entirely based on the fact that they wrapped it up in stylus controls.
I liked Phantom Hourglass for the fact that you could mark up your map to remind yourself of things. Like if I would, if you're doing multiple floors, multiple rooms, and I know I want to do this, you could just leave yourself a note, literally write anything you want to on a map. And I love that concept of it. I'm surprised that hasn't stuck. What's that?
You also just do that with paper.
I know, but it was just so handy doing it in the game. And just remembering that. Oh, speaking of memories of Zelda, I was so obsessed with the original Legend of Zelda in my elementary years that I was trying to get my buddy to play it, but he didn't have the patience and trying to figure stuff out. I actually took graph paper and graphed out all the dungeons on graph paper with little, numbers in each one, and then a spot at the bottom to say what you had to do to, open this door or whatever. I had like a whole like legend system and everything. What I wouldn't give to still have that. If I could still in my possession have that graph paper I had from when I was, in 5th, 6th, 7th grade, whatever it was, that would be amazing.
When I was a kid, I wrote a whole like book length sequel to Majora's Mask, where Ganondorf got the Majora's Mask and wore it. That was a big threat. And I wrote a whole book about it, man, and it was on my grandma's computer of the 2000s, and what I wouldn't give to have that story back. Yeah. I'm sure it's written terribly, as it was written by an 11-year-old or whatever. But I remember, speaking of your graph story, I remember mapping out the water temple so that way I could describe it in complete like Link turned right down the hallway. I wanted to make sure that the hallways lined up. Mm-hmm. So I drew out the maps.
Oh, this one doesn't make me look good, but I think I've told you this story before, but back to Link to the Past, I told you how it made me feel smart. Well, there were moments where I got stumped. And when I was a kid, we didn't have a home phone in my house. And so I would go to like the junk drawer and find a quarter. And I would bike down the street to a payphone and call my buddy Dave, who I borrowed the game from, and say, dude, what do I do with this magic mirror? I don't get it. And he walked me through it on a payphone. And then I go back home and solve whatever I had to do. So he was my own little like Nintendo hotline.
That's awesome.
Yeah, because there was no cell phones, there was no internet, there was no, ringing him up on a tablet or anything like that. Didn't have a landline phone, so I rode down for the quarter to call my buddy.
That's really cool.
To get the answers.
That's a cool story. I like that.
Yeah. So I think we've covered most of them. I mean, the CDI Phillips ones, obviously.
Yeah. Triforce Heroes, I guess, which was weird.
I did not enjoy that one. Is that the one where like you're stacking links on top of each other?
Yeah. Yes.
The Four Swords one was pretty good though, where you had to play. You could play with 3 buddies.
Yeah.
That was surprisingly good.
I didn't have 3 buddies.
Now you could still play it by yourself. You just would like have you and 3 other links, and you had to switch between the 2 links and stuff. But it was just a lot of fun to play with somebody.
No, I believe that. I believe it was. Didn't you have to link up Game Boys to a GameCube to play it originally?
Yes, I think so. I think they originally did a version that was on Game Boy. There was a Four Swords Adventure that was just standalone, but I think it included the original Link to the Past, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was, and I think it came with Link to the Past.
Yeah. So, are there any titles from the series that you missed and regret that you have not played them?
I think the only 2 I haven't played are Skyward Sword and A Link Between Worlds.
Oh, I'm so surprised you haven't played A Link Between Worlds. Do you have a 3DS?
I never had a 3DS, that's why.
Oh, man, we need to remedy that.
And it was just, 3D, like, every Nintendo console purchase I've ever made is because the Zelda game came out.
Right.
So I didn't buy a Wii U because by the time a new Zelda came out, it was on Switch. Right. And then I never bought a 3DS and then The Link Between Worlds came out, and that was like
the tail end.
That was it was like I had just moved to Chicago, so I had less money than I had ever had in my life.
Right.
So there was no way I was pulling off a 3DS. And then they re-released Majora's Mask, and I was going to buy a 3DS for that. But I remember I was so, now this really paints me in a negative picture, but I was so emotionally distraught at missing out on the Majora's Mask Special Edition 3DS that I was just like, I'm not even going to bother getting a 3DS. Because I was just so heartbroken that I missed that console.
Aw. You should play that one, dude. They do something really clever in that game where all the dungeons can be done in any order that you want to. So,
yeah, because you can like rent items and stuff, right?
Yeah, you basically go to a shop and instead of buying them, you pay to rent the item that you need in order to solve that dungeon, which was just so clever. It was a fun way to twist it and do it.
Yeah, so I will. The Link Between Worlds is gonna be harder to get because I feel like 3DSs are somehow more expensive than they used to be. I assume because they exited production.
Yeah, they discontinued, and Nintendo stuff just never gets cheaper. So
yeah, so we'll just have to, I don't know, borrow a 3DS at some point.
Well, when you move to Rockford, we'll loan you one.
Okay, just to play Link Between Worlds. But then Skyward Sword, yeah, it was just I wasn't crazy about the Wii in general, and it whereas I thought Twilight Princess was actually better on Wii than GameCube because of its motion controls. Skyward Sword was too dependent on them, and it kind of annoyed me at that time. But now that we live in a world where Skyward Sword came out in 2011, is that right?
I believe so, yes.
So it's been 10 years since we've had a proper Zelda game because Breath of the Wild is so different, which I love. I love Breath of the Wild. But now I have such a hankering for that dungeon, that dungeon puzzler kind of Zelda game that I'm hungry for Skyward Sword. I pre-ordered it right after the Direct.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, which is
funny because you don't have to.
Yeah, and it's also wildly out of character for me in particular. But I'm just so hungry for it.
That's interesting. I'm the same way because those will be brand new dungeons for you and me.
Yes, yeah. We're going to discuss it on the show as though it had just come out that day.
Yeah, kind of like Super Mario 3D World.
Yeah.
Like I said, Minish Cap stands out for me. I love that whole dynamic of shrinking and growing. That made for some super clever puzzles. Spirit Tracks, I think, is probably the one that is least memorable.
Right. But did you have you missed any of them?
Yes. I was hoping maybe I could gloss over this, but I'm ashamed to say I have not finished Skyward Sword, as you already know. I have not finished either of the Oracle games.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess I was the right age for that kind of portable Zelda.
Well, you know what? We haven't talked about Link's Awakening, man.
Oh, yeah.
How did we skip over Link's Awakening?
Yeah, I love Link's Awakening.
Link's Awakening, I seriously am baffled that we have not talked about that because that game is so fantastic. And, I mean, for how limited the original Game Boy was, they pulled off quite a bit in that game. I mean, you had to pause anytime you wanted to switch any weapon because you only had 2 buttons to do.
I remember that being annoying.
But the story was so cool. It was sad and happy at the end.
I love the twist is just heartbreaking at the end of the game.
Right. Like, it's just in order for you to survive, I don't know. Is it considered a spoiler for a 25-year-old game?
I have not played Link's Awakening remake, but I don't feel like I necessarily need to because I played Link's Awakening so many times.
Oh, dude, it's so charming.
I really hate the art style of the remake.
Really?
Yeah, but I wonder if I'll get into it if I play it, but I don't know. We'll see.
One day I'll play exactly the same, except you don't have to pause every time you want to switch something, which is such a delight.
I am sure I will play it one day.
It's so good. I need to replay that game now.
I think I would need a friend from Rockford to mail me his copy so I could borrow it, I think, to play through that. You know what I mean?
I got like 3 of them, so I could probably do that.
Of course you do.
I have a Steelbook one that was only available in Europe.
Wow, that's I guess that shouldn't surprise me at all.
It has it's shaped like a Game Boy, and it actually has the title screen from the game when you turn it on the Game Boy on the Steelbook cover, which is really cool.
That's really cool.
And then the inside cover, when you open it up, it all has screenshots from the game in the original, not black and white, but what was it, green and black?
Yeah, the monoscale or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, Link's Awakening, what a great game. And just some of there was the whole side mission in Link's Awakening where you had to get an item and then give it to somebody else that needed it. They would give you another item.
The first trading side quest.
That was outstanding.
They would carry through to Ocarina and beyond. But that was the first one.
Man, I want to go back and replay that now.
I'm surprised. I think the Oracle games would hold up.
Actually, I just got a box copy of both Oracle games. I purchased one myself, and CB found one for me and picked it up for me. So I have both those games complete in the box.
Which is impressive for a Game Boy game at all.
Right. So, and I still have the original ones because I had just the cartridges before. So I should just go bust those out and play. I have them on my 3DS.
I don't remember them being extraordinarily long either.
Really? I got the dungeons seemed much more difficult than I remember Link's Awakening being, but I could have been just talking to myself. But man, what a great game! How did we miss that one? How did we talk about that one last? I guess
I mentioned that my father bribed me with it when I met him, but otherwise, yeah, you're right. We didn't really talk about it. But it's a classic, another classic. It's a franchise made up of mostly classics. Pretty much every mainline entry.
Well, Zach, I feel like I could sit and talk to you about Zelda for like another hour or two, but we're pushing 2 hours on this podcast, so we should probably wrap it up. But thanks for having that discussion with me and indulging in one of my favorite series of all time. That was a lot of fun.
Right, A Link to the Past, your favorite game ever, right?
Link to the Past is my all-time favorite, but I would say that Ocarina is probably the better game.
I get you.
If that makes
sense.
Agree. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Link to the Past just has such a special place in my heart for not just the series itself, but video games in general. It really kind of made me change how I looked at games. And, it helped me mentally and helped me grow as a kid when I wasn't really able to because of my environment. So it's special to me. It's my favorite, but I would say that Ocarina is the better game. So, all right. Next week for our topic, it's going to be community questions. It's the first of the month. So be ready on the social media outlets, Twitter, Facebook, Discord. I'll be posting something later this week asking you for questions that you'd like Zach, CB, and I to discuss in the show. And you know what? We'd love to hear your voice as well. If you'd like to hear your voice on the show asking said question, be sure to leave us a voicemail at area code 347-746-2278, or if you'd like an easier way to remember it, 3477-GO-CAST. We would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. Zach, any parting words for the listeners before we get out of here?
You know what I got? I got just the on-brand thing to recommend this week. Scott, have you ever read the Legend of Zelda mangas?
I have not, but I own them.
Read them. They're very good. They're I mean, they give Link a voice, which is crazy, but otherwise, I think it makes the stories more readable. They're just a lot of fun. They really do take the story, and tell it in a new and interesting way. Plus, they look classy as hell.
They do look good. You got to read them backwards, though. Like mangas are not backwards. Backwards to us.
You have to read right to left. Yes, which is
right to left.
It can be difficult to wrap your head around, but it's easier than you think, Scott.
Okay, all right. I just don't want to. I feel like I need to get another copy because I don't want to ruin the integrity of the book.
Of course, yeah, you would think that.
Yeah. You gotta find it online somewhere or something. Speaking of books, I started a book this week, Zach. Not physical book. I do audiobook because I just I like to get things done I like listening to an audiobook while I'm doing other things.
I know. You think reading books is a waste of time?
It's not a waste of time. It's just that if I can do something else while I'm doing it, why not?
I got
why not? So I did a weird thing this week because I had a couple credits built up on my Audible account, and I'm like, I need something new to read. And I love the Game of Thrones series. I love Game of Thrones. I know you didn't like how it ended. I've always wanted to read the books. So I picked up the first one, the series is A Song of Ice and Fire, and the first book is called Game of Thrones. Right?
A Game of Thrones.
A Game of Thrones. So I started listening to that this week, and I know that people talk about how this series diverges from the TV series, or rather the TV series diverges from the books. But this first book is real spot on to the show.
I was always told the first book is pretty much identical to what they did in the show.
I'm talking like I've seen that first season 10 times, literally.
I know you have. You're insane.
And some of the dialogue is like exact. I'm visualizing the scene in my head. It's kind of crazy, but
now there are scenes with Varys and Littlefinger that were added just for the show. And those are some of the best seasons of the first season.
I love watching those two on screen together.
It's insane. It's so good. Chaos is a Ladder is my favorite scene of the whole show.
It's so good. But anyway, I'm actually really looking forward to it because there's something comforting about listening to a book that is as overwhelming as Game of Thrones when you already know the story. Because I'm listening to this going, man, if this is the first time I read this book, I have no idea who Benjen is. I have no idea who Stannis Baratheon is. You know what I mean? Like, those names mean something to me now. So it's almost like a comfort to go into it that way, knowing what I do. I don't feel overwhelmed. But then I have the ability to, once I get into the other books, to start comparing and contrasting and seeing how things are different from the way that I remember from the TV show, which I'm really looking forward to. So
that's cool.
That's one of my favorite things to do in general. I read The Stand. I read It over the last summer, or listened to rather, and then watched the movies right afterwards. I just love doing that. I love doing that.
I like doing that for comics and the like. So I get you.
Yeah. Well, Zach, this was a good week. I know we went a little long, but it was such a good conversation, and I'm glad you were here to enjoy it with us. Chris, we look forward to having you back next week, buddy. Hope you had a good week. But that's, like I said, that's going to do it. Thank you so much for listening. Want to remind you that The Gaming Outsider is produced by Nate Lucas, and all of the music that you hear in the episode, bumpers, intros, everything, is written and performed by Grant Henry of Stemmage and Metroid Metal. If you'd like to check out his other stuff, he actually does quite a bit of music in games. You can check him out at stemagemusic.com, STEMAGE music.com. Also, be sure to email us if you have any questions or concerns. Our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. Until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Zach Parkerson, and we are The Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.